Good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to have you join us this afternoon for this very topical conversation. As you may be aware, I know that a few of you who've come online this afternoon have actually visited us for previous webinars, and so delighted to have you back. And for anyone new to these webinars, this forms part of a series we're running every month, looking at different topics within the tech and digital world, relating to current conversations that are going on. And I think you'd probably agree you can't get away from the title of software development in the mainstream news or in the special industry airwaves. And so it's an absolute pleasure to be able to explore this topic further. And to do that, the format of this session this afternoon is going to take the form of an opening remarks from Lee Dempster, Group Commercial Officer, followed by a number of polls. We always like to interact with our audience, so we're keen to do that. So you'll be navigated through those when we get to them, and then we'll move into a panel discussion to capture the employer perspective, the candidate perspective, and then a quality perspective within the context of the conversation at hand today. And then further on from that, we'll move into a little bit about where apprenticeships play a part in this. Obviously, being a training provider, we're very enthusiastic about the role apprenticeships can play in upskilling or accessing new talent. And so we'll look at that. And then there'll be a chance for a Q&A. So please do, as we go along, pop questions into the chat feature, and we'll be delighted to pick those up and explore them with our fantastic panelists. So before we get into the conversational context, I'm just going to introduce you to Lee Dempster, our Group Commercial Officer, who's just going to give you a context about Just IT and what we do. Over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. Just IT. We know the world is a more complex and interconnected place than it's ever been before. We also know that the pace of innovation and new approaches and new technologies is getting faster than ever before. Just IT has spent the last 20 years developing its solutions to meet those challenges. As a unique group in digital and technology solutions, we aim to lead the market in innovating, informing, educating and delivering the very best in recruitment, apprenticeship and training opportunities and service for our customers to enrich their lives. We focus on continuous feedback from our customers to help and support our investment and growth, and our mission is every person matters. Our passion is in inspiring and changing the lives of our learners, career developers, employees and clients through the blending of people skills and technologies.
Thank you, Lee. That's great, and there will be a chance to follow up with us at the end if you've got questions relating to what we do. I'm going to ask my colleague James to launch the first of our polls. So that's come up on your screen now. Over to you, James.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So yeah, poll one is, which of the following two coding languages are most important to your business? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the poll now. If you can, I'm going to give sort of 10 to 15 seconds for you to select your answers, and then I will publish the results. So I am launching the poll right now. So we have got C#, JavaScript, Java, JavaScript, including HTML5, CSS3, Python, and PHP. So I'm seeing quite a lot of people coming through now. I'll give that another 5 seconds. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to close the poll now, and I'm going to share the results, which will be with you now.
Fantastic.
So we had 38% at C#, 31 Java, 38 is the equal as C# on with JavaScript, including HTML5, CSS3, Python at 19, and PHP at 6%, Andrew.
Fantastic, thank you. And I know that Richard will pick up on this with the panelists later on. So thank you for your input. It's always good to understand what's going on with our clients, and this mirrors kind of the balance that we would have expected to see, but great to understand what is going on with those that are on the line. So I'm going to hand back to Lee Dempster. Many of you will have received an article that we published online talking about the very topic of conversation, that the future of software development, and Lee's going to unpack that a bit more, and over to you, Lee.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. In this webinar, The Future of Software Development, we'll be diving into the global crisis and the fallout from it impacting the software development in the UK, and what this ultimately means for developers and employers. We know that the UK has a rich history of innovation and technical prowess. We can see it in the growth of software engineering. The UK software market is about £20 billion in 2019. There's just under 400,000 programmers and software development professionals in the UK, and that totals up to about 10% of all of the jobs advertised in the UK. What we can see is there's more digital change on the horizon. So what does that mean for companies and individuals? The World Economic Forum, in their Future of Jobs report, estimates that by 2022, emerging technologies will create a net gain of 58 million more jobs that will be driven by mobile internet, artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and cloud technology. All of these areas require digital skills, with developers heavily ensconced in them. If these predictions are true, it means that the demand for software skills and knowledge will continue to grow. Countries and companies have challenges around finding and developing skills to meet the demand for technology-driven economic activities already. The UK is the 5th most digitally advanced nation in Europe, and it's estimated that we hire 5% of the workforce globally. What this means is there's fierce competition for talent, and this is only going to get bigger. All areas of the pipeline are reacting to this shortage, and in a recent Glassdoor poll, in its top 6 roles of average salaries, software developer, data science, and software engineer were all in the top 6, with starting salaries ranging between 28,000 and 34,000. But we know that the COVID has had an effect. And as one of the worst affected countries, COVID-19 has inevitably caused a downturn in UK economic output. Research from Sonotype suggested that the COVID-19 has caused a 28% drop in UK software development. However, most are predicting a V-shaped recovery, as before the crisis, software development activity in the UK had increased by 78% from January 2019 to February 2020. So what next for developers? For individuals across Europe, there has been a massive uptake in coding schools and boot camps for either people who are updating their skills or developing new skills to progress beyond their current career path. And the UK is no exception. This is a hugely dynamic marketplace, and you will have the opportunities in amazing companies or projects, and there's certainly a lot of flexibility in terms of work-life balance. So if you're an employee, what are the 5 things to consider? First, you're a problem solver. Think problem solving first, coding second. Projects can be very complex, so practice. 2, what languages suit you? They're not all the same, and you can choose popular, as we've just highlighted in the poll, Python, C#, Java, Go, SQL, or you can become more specialist. 3, communication skills. Stop watching the movies depicting the hackers with their cigarettes and in a dark room. Developers typically are working on projects that have multiple stakeholders, so virtual and face-to-face skills are essential to successful conclusions on projects. 4, always be learning. This world evolves and adapts at a frightening pace, and companies use languages in different ways, so you need to be prepared on how you grow your skills. Use skills camps, apprenticeships, or companies that have in-house coding training. Finally, be organized. Deadlines are critical as any part of a developer role or an engineer's role. Missing them can have a devastating impact, either commercially or successful example would be the amount of products that the NHS launched in COVID successfully to the market that enabled us to have a better quality of life when we were going through the pandemic. So what next for employers who are looking to hire developers? For companies, there's always going to be a need to go to the market to find the very best experienced talent. You need to ensure you know exactly what you're doing and how you're going to engage that talent. If you're stuck in a usual approach, it's unlikely that it's going to work going forward. So again, 5 things to consider. Hire slowly, but make it memorable. This sounds very simple, but get the right people. Good people want to work with other good people. So have you got a plan of how you're going to engage, interest, or make your company appealing, and who is going to be part of that hiring process? A little note for those of you that are working in companies now. As good as you think you are, there's always going to be another company in the market that's perceived to be better. 2, stay away from rock stars. One person does not typically build the best software. Teams build it. These teams communicate, engage, and don't let egos rule their approach to a project. 3, go for talent, not a job for life. If you are doing your job correctly and hiring the right people, you're unlikely to hold on to them for an overly long period of time. Top talent will always move on, so you need to get as much out of them as you can while continuing to bring in fresh blood. And have you got that in your plan? 4, cultural fit trumps coding finesse. Cultural fit is often as important as coding skills. So have you got an approach that identifies and evaluates this, and are you rigorous in applying this? Have you considered how to engage your non-technical staff in career changing? Why not, with an excellent employee, invest in their new career path? Finally, top developers want to see their code in action. The companies that offer the best payout in terms of financials and perks are often lacking when it comes to less tangible rewards like job satisfaction. The best developers are people that are willing to take a risk and make a bet on a company that's paying a little less than a big giant simply because they want to make a difference or see their code in action or learn something super new. So the challenge of finding and developing the right skills. As we've seen recently, as Chancellor Rishi Sunak announced the new bonus for employers to hire apprentices, the importance of apprenticeships in developing skills across all sectors has been brought back into focus. This has never been truer than in terms of digital skills. If we continue to see the digital skills gap in the UK, then we need to rethink, redesign, and be more agile in developing and hiring talent. This was a clear shortage of tech talent before the corona crisis, and there's no sign that that demand for digital talent is going to go away. So developing the skills our digital economy requires will again be a key focus of employers, the government, and training providers like ourselves.
Thank you, Lee. Fascinating to listen to, and I know that Richard is going to be getting our panelists to offer their reflections on some of those slides. So that the slide that's on the screen now, some real insight there that hopefully helps many of you that are online as you're planning and you're looking at your own strategies. So thank you again, Lee. And I'm going to ask James to launch our next poll. We've heard there about the hard technical skills, but we've also heard about the software, or should I say soft skills that software team members should have. So over to you, James.
Thank you, Andrew. So poll 2, which 2 candidate traits are most important to your software team within your business? So I'm going to launch the poll right now. So some of the traits I've listed here is problem solving, language specialization, clearly I need that, communication skills, time management and organization skills, desire to learn, develop technical skills. So if you can all select the most appropriate that are important to your software team, and I can see there's quite a few folks coming in, so I'll give that another 5 more seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close and share that with your good selves. And problem solving comes out trumps, Mr. Andrew Walker.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, obviously in the light of Lee's comments and his remarks, that would be a a true view that we'd have seen, but actually maybe more so. So again, it'd be interesting to put that to the panelists shortly. So we are going to now move into that section of the webinar. So I'm going to ask 3 panelists to kindly turn on their cameras and unmute themselves. So welcome all, and I'll introduce you initially, and then I'll get you to just talk through a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you're really interested in being here, why you wanted to spend some time with us this afternoon. So we have on the panel a few different perspectives. So we have the employer perspective from Andrew Boaden, who works at Sainsbury's Tech. So I'll come to you in a moment, Andrew. And then we have Veronie Adamczyk, who is a software developer who is in a company called Node London. And I'll come to you as well in a moment. And then also Grant Swart, who's bringing the quality perspective from BCS, the awarding body, and be delighted to introduce him in a moment. So Andrew, firstly, do you want to give us a kind of top level bio by way of introduction, please?
Okay, yeah, so I did an IT degree back in the 90s, so I'm not going to age myself too much. But yeah, then I've been working in IT ever since. So I started off as a developer, and over the last 20 years, I've seen kind of the cycles come through in the normal way that technology develops. But very much in the last 7 years, the focus has been much more on in-house development again, rather than off-the-shelf packages, and that's what we've been driving towards at Sainsbury's as well. So it's been an interesting time. It's a great industry to be part of.
Yeah, and I know from our conversation earlier, there's some exciting innovation that is going on. So be great to hear more of that when Richard has that conversation. Veronie, would you like to just introduce what you're doing at the moment and yeah, how you got there?
Yep. So I'm currently taking place in the software development level 3 apprenticeship through Justit. So I got here 2 years ago. I started my development career. I was made redundant from my previous job, so gave me an opportunity to think what it was that I wanted to do, and software development was a passion of mine, so it was a way that I got into it.
Fantastic, and I know Rich is very keen to explore the motivations and your learns along the way, so thank you. And Grant, briefly, just by way of introduction, over to you, sir.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andrew. Very briefly, I got a background in education and also in software development, and yeah, I got hooked into this when as soon as the new standards came out, because they're just the competence space of them. I just think they're a fantastic thing, and I love being part of it, really.
Fantastic, great stuff. So Richard Lambden, over to you, sir. Richard Lambden is our client service director, and he's going to host this conversation. So I'll turn my camera off and look forward to hearing from all of you, and I'll be back shortly.
Very good afternoon, everybody, and thank you again for your time. I'm actually dialing in because my Wi-Fi reception is not great, so to mitigate any issues, I'm not on camera, which is probably a blessing for most of you. I'm going to come to you first, Andrew, if I may. And I'm kind of keen to understand what impact, if you like, on working practices have been brought about by coronavirus, both probably over the last 3 or 4 months, but whether that's going to have an impact for the future, because I think as an organisation you've traditionally worked in kind of an agile way and had scrums at the start of the day and so on and so forth. How has that worked over the last 3 or 4 months, and how will it change moving forward?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we have a number of teams. So we started doing in-house development about 7 years ago, and we've built up to have around 300 developers now within Sainsbury's Tech, working on a variety of applications. And we work predominantly in Scrum. We have a few teams in Kanban, but yeah, they're very used to being in the same location. And for the last couple of years, we've been trying to encourage more remote working and getting nowhere really because of the value of having the teams together. At the start of the lockdown period, so yeah, kind of mid-March, when we forced the teams to become more remote, I think we were very surprised to see how successful that was as a process. So yeah, we started to use Teams a lot. We found that our development teams were more efficient because they had less context switching, less distractions going on. People weren't walking up to them, they weren't getting distracted at the, at the coffee machine, etc. Pair programming and mob programming also became a lot more successful as well. So we hadn't really realized, because we'd never stepped back and looked at it, the fact that when you're trying to get two people to share a screen to do a bit of pair programming, one of them can't see quite so well. So when you use the technology to be able to do that, suddenly you can do a lot more than just pair. You can actually have mob programming with everybody getting an equal view, and that's driven quite a lot of benefits for us as well. I guess one of the downsides to it is kind of mental health, and people feeling a little bit isolated, especially those people that are living alone, and that's the one thing that we worry about most. So, and that kind of feeds into the what would we do in the future. I think we'd have a little bit of mix. We'll never go back to fully all in one location, all in an office, kind of 9 to 5. But I don't think we'd just do 100% home working. I think it'll be about 50-50 between the two.
Fantastic. But Veronie, I'm guessing you're working from home as well. Obviously a smaller organisation than Sainsbury's, but how has it impacted the way that you're working? Tell us a bit about your team and how things have changed over the last 4 months for you.
Yeah, so we're quite a small team. There's only 7 of us in the entire company. We've been working from home since March because of COVID. We were made furloughed throughout part of the process, obviously, with other companies going on furlough. We were one of them. But since coming back, we've been doing things such as making sure we keep in contact with each other using Google Hangouts, having video conferences with each other. And as Andrew said, it's been a way that we can start doing more peer programming.
Yeah.
So,
I'm really intrigued. Andrew referenced it. I think you're one of those wonderful examples of somebody who's followed their passion. Because I think I'm right in saying that your previous career was in retail, but not in software development.
yeah.
So, kind of, what attracted you to become a programmer? And can you give the audience a little bit of a flavour of the sort of tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis, and also expand perhaps in terms of how quickly your employer was able to trust you and give you extra responsibilities as you progress through your apprenticeship?
Yes. So I was always interested in technology when I was younger. I was the only A-level student in my class at a girls' school. So got some very close one-on-one time to be able to develop that passion further. Yeah. As you've mentioned, I was originally in retail, and then through redundancy was able to follow this passion. First step was I took the DSP course through Justit, which gave me a bit more of a skill set for it, and then was able to go through the apprenticeship scheme, which has helped me to develop my skills further.
Yeah.
So software development.
What does a typical day look like? What sort of things do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yep, so day-to-day basis is the company I work for. We do things such as websites and banners for advertising. Day-to-day we'll be working with each other, making sure we're keeping in contact, making sure everyone knows what's going on. Currently I'm working on a website for a company. So yeah, I think day-to-day is mainly just focusing on
what sort of languages do you tend to write your code in?
So we use PHP, JavaScript, React, HTML, CSS.
Yeah, so quite a lot of the ones that came up in the poll then you would find on a daily basis. Fantastic, thank you. Grant, if I can kind of come to you, obviously you're what's known as an endpoint assessor, so you have the pleasure of talking to colleagues like Veronie when they come to the end of their process. What sort of types of projects do you find that the apprentices talk about, and thus how do they add value to the businesses that they're working for, without obviously breaking any confidences? Can you share some generic thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I couldn't be more specific, really. I have to be very broad because we obviously are seeing apprentices from all employers doing lots of different things, but the one thing that stands out and what it's all about is them doing real work. That's what the standard requires of them to do, and that's when they're adding real value to the business. And it's just a joy to listen to them when they talk about their work. But yeah, fundamentally, Richard, it's all about them delivering real work, either for internal benefit, gaining internal efficiencies, or it could be for external work that they're doing for customers as well. So that's what it's all about.
Superb. Andrew, if I can come back to you, the second poll asked the audience to talk about some traits, and I think it was 70% problem solving, 45% communication, 40% driven to learn, 35% organisation, time management, 10% language specialisation. If you were to almost design that kind of perfect team for yourself in Sainsbury's Tech, what sort of mix of people would you have in terms of kind of, I don't know, junior, mid-range experience and seniors? And therefore, if you were hiring into that team, would you reflect what the poll has said, or would you look for different sorts of skills?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work really looking at our mix, not wishing to go specifically to a bell curve, but yeah, we try and have a mix of 20% junior developers, 60% mid-level, and then 20% senior. The 20% senior can then spend their time mentoring and developing the junior side, and that's kind of the aim, is that we try and get a one-to-one relationship going on there. We also believe quite intensely in promoting internally where we can. So we try and get people to progress up, and feeding that talent in at the lower end, at the junior end, and using things like apprenticeship schemes is a great way of improving diversity and the mix, because it's very much about the team. So if you can bring people from different backgrounds together, you get a wider view and a better solution design coming in for the problems that we're trying to solve. Specifically looking at that poll, I was quite pleased with it. I ranked it in my head as problem solving as the most important to us. Desire to learn, I'd got a second, not third. And the reason for that is because we truly believe that if somebody has a will, you can teach them any skill realistically, and that's kind of the aim we come from. Then communication skills, because you're absolutely right. It is a team. There's no backroom programming anymore. You're doing seminars. You're doing demos, ceremonies to key stakeholders, and it's also about trying to understand what they really want. Is a key part of it, and then time management, and then language skills last, because we tend to find that if somebody knows a language, they've got the basics. They can, you can move from Java to C#, you can move from C# to Golang. It's relatively easy to do, and most of the passionate developers that we have try and learn new languages all the time anyway, and I think that's quite a key thing. So. It did reflect a lot with the way that we do recruitment. Good.
Veronie, in terms of yourself, if you kind of were to give you, I think I'm right in saying you're at that endpoint assessment stage, aren't you? You're either about to go through it or close to it. So if you kind of could give the Veronie 2 years ago some advice, what would you kind of almost have advised yourself that you wished you'd kind of known? The skills that you needed to develop that perhaps you hadn't quite realised when you started on this 2 years ago?
I think the advice I would give myself is everything's learnable. Don't stress about trying to make yourself perfect straight away. It's a learning curve. No matter what you do, you're always learning, always developing. So don't force yourself to be perfect at the start. You're never going to be perfect. It's always evolving.
Yeah, so learn by your mistakes, but don't be frightened to try and obviously I guess you're surrounded by people that you can ask questions and kind of help. Grant, in terms of your reflections, when you're talking to, and it's lovely to hear your enthusiasm for the people that you speak to, but what do you tend to find are the kind of the key things that shine through when they're talking to you about their portfolios?
Well, one of the two things that will always set it off is the apprentices' engagement in the process, their willingness to learn, but also the employer and how they've helped and facilitated the progress of that apprentice on their journey, the work they've been giving them, and the opportunities they've given them to undertake the real work. And just supported them really. The best programs are the ones where there's a real good collaboration between the employer, the apprentice, and obviously how the training provider works and facilitates that.
Fantastic. Andrew, if I can come back to you, in terms of, I guess, this kind of strange world of digital transformation, and Lee alluded to, the fantastic pace of change that the NHS and public organisations, and I'm sure you found the same at Sainsbury's, were able to kind of mobilise all these new apps and websites and everything else that we kind of needed to do. What sort of digital transformation projects do you, again, without breaking any Sainsbury's trade secrets here, that in case somebody from Tesco's is listening, but what sort of projects do you anticipate coming down the line in the next 6 to 12 months, perhaps?
So I think from a Sainsbury's perspective, obviously we're quite large in the grocery area. We've got a lot of general merchandise as well. So the programs that we're looking at are all based around how do we reduce our overall cost as a business so that we can reduce our prices, because it's going to get very price competitive. We saw that back in 2008, 2009 with the financial crisis. We're going to be in a very similar scenario here. People are going to have less money to spend, and it's all about how do we reduce our costs as an organization, either through taking out wasteful tasks that we do, or so we saw a massive uptick in people doing their own self-scanning, for example, when they were doing the shopping. Right. So Smart Shop was a big success for that, specifically with people using their own device to be able to do that. That reduces our costs, obviously, but it seems to be warmly received by our customers. And in some stores, we saw that participation go up from around about 8% to around 50%, which is a fantastic place to be. So how do we build upon that? How do we create applications that empower and encourage our customers to do that themselves? Which then means we can invest in price and bring the prices down. So that's a win-win for us. And equally,
so do you think, colleagues, Andrew, sorry to cut across you, do you think that, have you therefore seen, I mean, clearly I would imagine, having brought development back in-house, I think, was it 7 years ago? So what impact has that been on the type of languages, I guess, that you're writing in? Again, linking that with digital transformation, will you start to use different sorts of programming languages than perhaps you might have done 7 years ago or even 4 months ago, dare I say?
Yeah, so we're evolving. We're trying to stay cutting edge. So you're trying to use the latest languages that are most suitable for us. From a colleague perspective, we're very much C# and a JavaScript front end. We were Angular, now we're React, and I'm sure that'll evolve continually. From a customer perspective, we originally were PHP and Java. We're now a little bit more Golang and React. So we're seeing those evolve. We try and stay with the main ones, just because it's easier to kind of build those skills and get a quorum. So the aim is that you build a community of developers that can help and develop and support each other as much as anything. So you don't want to be too diverse with every team doing something slightly different, but equally you're constantly evaluating the market to see what the best language is to be able to get speed to market and overall cost of ownership down.
Great. Veronie, have you seen any shift in, when people are presenting their technical portfolio to you, have you seen any shift in languages that are suddenly appearing? I mean, I know a few years ago, was it Ruby on Rails was all the rage in certain sectors, you know, and developers sometimes become an expert in a field and follow it. But are you seeing any trends, sir?
No, not really. We accommodate all languages, and we get all languages coming in, and you know, the standards are designed as such to be able to any languages is available for them to show their skills and competence. So no, not really, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. And Veronie, I think you referenced some of the ones that Andrew mentioned. So obviously you're using up to date, cutting edge stuff as well, which is great for your development.
Yes, it's good to keep on top of the new stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. Good. Okay, well, I think we'll hold it there for now. Thank you so much for an engaging conversation. I really enjoyed that. If you'd be kind enough just to kind of go off camera and mute yourselves for now, there'll be an opportunity later to come back for the four of us, because I think there'll be some panel questions to consider. But Andrew, if I can hand back to you.
Absolutely, and thank you, Richard and panelists. That was a really interesting conversation and very insightful, so thank you. I'm going to just turn kind of the lens of this webinar towards the software developer level 4 apprenticeship program that we offer. I just want to talk for a few moments about that. Naturally, you know, being a training provider, offering this program is a wonderful thing to do in this particular climate, and you know, to be able to give people the skills that they need in a growing market is fantastic. So the software developer level 4 program is an 18-month program. It can be funded out of the levy, so we've got an apprenticeship levy pot that can be funded out of that, and so a great way to utilize that either to upskill existing staff or to bring in talent, so attracts talent. And that, the great advantage of that is that you can mold junior talent, entry-level talent, into your culture. And as Andrew Boaden of Sainsbury Tech was saying, you know, the cultural fit is so important, and that's a fantastic piece that we work with many clients on. Really adds value. I think the other kind of key things to talk about, as Grant mentioned, is the skills part of the program. And an apprenticeship is made up of 3 key areas: knowledge, skills, and behaviours. The knowledge is the theory that we impart over 32 workshops, over the online learning. Sorry, I'd say 32 workshops, 32 hours of workshop training. The online learning, the micro teachers that they might access, their own self-study, access to the different portals that we give them. So that's their knowledge, the theories as such. But the apprenticeship is a lot more than that, and I think that's the wonderful thing about it. Is it's more of an experience than just simply formal training. It's the skills that they then put into, you know, embed that knowledge in their day-to-day job, and then they evidence those skills to a portfolio which they build throughout the program, and then they compile that portfolio and put it forward to the awarding body, so BCS in this case, and they will also do a synoptic project at the end. So 3 key things: knowledge, skills, and behaviours. It's critical that they're evidencing those skills, and as Grant well put, it's very important that they're adding value to the organisation. That's exactly what this program is about, that they're doing a normal job and they're just showcasing those skills in their portfolio. And to do that, we supply a business coach to help them contextualise their learning and then to build that portfolio. So every month for 2 hours, they'll engage with one of our specialist coaches to get that understanding and to focus in on their role and what skills they need to upskill on. The other kind of key USP really is to say that actually it's a full stack experience they're getting. They're getting the front end, the back end, they're getting database, they're getting server exposure. It's a really well-rounded experience. And so particularly for someone in that early part of their career, to get a broad understanding of the different contexts is key. And we do the initial bit of training, understanding, and James, if you can just pop onto the next slide, please. Through the lens of C#. So as you can see, application design concepts using C# at milestone 2. The real idea of that is that we're providing them a lens by which they're going to learn the art of software development. Now, the coach will help apply that into their own context. So we've heard different languages talked about today, and that the coach is there to help them take their learning and then apply that within their own context. So that's really key. The other thing that they'll learn to do is understand how to write good quality code, understanding that logic, understanding user interfaces. I've talked about data and linking code to database, testing, understanding the wider context, so development lifecycle, problem solving. We've talked about that a lot, and that was 70% on the poll. That's all part of this program. It's not just the technical skills, it's the broad skills, knowledge, skills, and behaviors they're going to learn. And then the business context and drivers for software. What's behind it? What's the business protocol? All of these elements form part of this well-rounded full stack experience that the individual will get. Thank you, James. And then they'll come up to the endpoint assessment, and that's when we take them through to BCS, and they do their synoptic project, and then they'll either get a pass, merit, or distinction. It's a fantastic program, and we'll be delighted to share more details if anyone wants after this webinar, continue that conversation. So I'm just going to ask James to launch a further and final poll. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And so poll 3, would you consider using the apprenticeship levy to develop early career software talent? So I'm now going to launch that poll right now, ladies and gentlemen. And like the previous 2 polls, if you can select an option. So that should be launching onto your screens very soon. There we go. It's simple. It's yes, no, or just unsure at this point. If you could all select one of those answers for me. And I can see there's quite a few votes coming in. I'll give that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to close and share that with you. And the answers are there, Mr. Walker.
Thank you very much. Great to see. So it sounds like there's a lot of understanding of what that is and an appetite for that, which is great. It's obviously been a journey of bringing that apprenticeship levy to the market for the government, and it's increasingly gaining adoption. I think the only thing to say on that is it's a fantastic pool of resource that still many firms aren't necessarily accessing to their full potential. It's money that can be used in upskilling, and it's purposely set aside for that. So what better way to develop your in-house talent or grow new talent than utilising those funds that already sit there. So
Andrew, and also popping onto that point there where we've got 20% of people said they're unsure at this point. Now, they may be unsure due to budgetary and headcount moving forward and wondering how they can roll that out. If they're unsure because they just don't know how that they can utilise it, then please do make sure, ladies and gentlemen, you do reach out to Andy and the team, Andrew and the team, to talk about how we can help you develop your staff via using the apprenticeship levy.
Great point there. Thank you, James. Absolutely. And I'm just going to ask James to move on to the next slide. So I just share very briefly, we are a training provider. We are a leader in London in the tech space. You may have come onto our business analyst or our NHS webinar recently. As you can see, we do offer these other programs, the IS Business Analyst Level 4, the Data Analyst Level 4, and also the Digital Marketer Level 3. Great programs. I think that, you know, the thing I'd maybe draw your attention to is particularly the Business Analyst and Data Analyst. We're starting to see a lot of businesses really embrace how those programs can breathe new skill sets within their organization or further bolster the existing great skills that they have. So that's what I'd like to say on that. Again, you'll see those 2 are awarded by BCS, and we work very closely with BCS on developing the best programs that are industry fit. So you're using up-to-date technologies, you're learning the in-demand methodologies and approaches to working practice, and that's what those programs are about. And on to the final few programs. Infrastructure Technician continues to be our largest program by quite a long way. We've historically delivered that from word go, and we work with huge number of organizations of every different size and shape with that program. And again, happy to explore that further with you if that's a need for you. Or the Network Engineer Level 4. And then the only other thing I'd like to mention, we do have some leadership and management programs. I think the good bit there is we've talked a lot about soft skills in these programs, and in the software program, particularly in the market that's there. You know, the the in-house knowledge that we have around these softer skills from these leadership and management programs is embedded into our other programs. You know, our coaches know how to get the best out of people, how to inspire them, and so it's a great addition to what we do, rather than being something very separate. Thank you, James. And Veronie mentioned our DPP course earlier, and that's one way that people can. So if you happen to be an individual learner on the line, looking to get into this career, maybe you found that the choppy waters of COVID to be a challenge, and actually you wanted to re-embrace a new opportunity. That is a great program that's geared towards giving you the initial skill set to open up a whole new industry for you. You may be here on the line as a learner or as an employer who's currently got software developer level 3 learners working with you. Great opportunity to upskill further into level 4. And what you're really looking like there is someone who's adding even more value to the business. They're taking more ownership. And so, if you're looking to grow and develop that talent, what better way to take them from a level 3, whether that be with another provider, and to help develop that skill set further with us onto the level 4. And the other thing I would say is, and Andrew Boaden made a great point about their mix of the 20-60-20 of junior, mid and senior hires. There is a blended approach to all of these, and you might find that actually you want the entry level talent or upskill that group, but also you want some senior expertise. You want to add value in a particular area. We have a team that can assist with that, and we'd be delighted to explore that if that's of interest. Thank you, James. So I'm just going to hand back to Richard and James we've obviously had the chat feature open, and we'll refer to any questions that have been placed there.
So
thank you, Andrew. I think there's one or two that have come in, James, if you'd just be good enough to look at those. But whilst you're scouring the questions the audience have sent, ladies and gents, if you want to come back up on screen for me, Andrew, Grant and Veronie. I was reading an article that actually somebody from, I don't know if anybody saw it, but an article that a gentleman wrote a blog who works for the Department of Work and Pensions, who obviously clearly themselves have had to deploy all sorts of different things to cope with claiming of furlough schemes and all the rest of it. And one of the things that he talked about in terms of the immediate future were more home working, and he's put in brackets, obviously, new projects on a regular basis, people moving between teams regularly, and more white label services, i.e. generic systems which can be rebranded, to meet a need. Andrew, is that representative, you think, how things will be in your world? Is that typical of the market, or is that very specific to DWP?
No, I think that's quite typical. Certainly the more home working, obviously, and I think that will be a trend that will become a requirement by talent as much as anything else, because there's a mix to be had. I think when you start to look at the white labeling, we even just within our organization, we're looking at where we can reuse things a lot more often. So we're looking at building things in a service orientated manner, so that we can make the best use. Build it once, build it well, rather than building things for specific use cases. And I think you'll see some of that. Obviously, he's potentially talking about multiple businesses using it. We're not necessarily looking to sell any software, but we are looking to reuse it internally and across the brands that we have. So I think that mirrors what we're doing.
Yeah, Grant, do you think because clearly there's going to be a much higher level of home working, will you as an assessor, will you be looking for different things? I mean, obviously there is a pre-requirement in terms of the standard that you've got to look for certain things from it, but do you expect to be some sort of change in terms of the way that you look at things from BCS's viewpoint?
No, I mean, not really. We just follow the requirements of the standard, to be honest. But you know, it goes without saying. Obviously, if an apprentice is going to be doing their work in a different sort of way, and more remotely, and I think Andrew picked up on some really relevant points there about the challenges, not just the benefits of home working, but the challenges of it. You know, they're the kind of things that we will definitely be attentive of, and you know, communication skills will be obviously a big one there.
Yeah, which I think, going back to the poll, I think was as Andrew said, I think came in second. But Veronie, in terms of the types of projects that your organisation is seeing, do you anticipate any differences in terms of the types of, you're mainly creating websites by the sound of it for clients, but do you see any different sorts of projects, or are they asking for particular requirements perhaps you hadn't seen 3-6 months ago?
Not as yet that I've seen, but it's possibility that obviously with the changing in times that they will start to look for different options or requirements, but we've not seen any as yet.
Okay, well, I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to ask each of you one kind of final question from each of your perspectives, and I'm shamelessly going to plug apprenticeships here because we're all very passionate about them. So from each of your perspectives, from a learner's perspective, Veronie, from an endpoint assessor, and obviously from an employer who has apprentices, what are the key benefits to you? So obviously, in time-honoured tradition, we'll go ladies first. So Veronie, what's been the benefit to you as an apprentice in terms of the apprenticeship?
I'd say the key benefit is getting real-world experience. Obviously, you're working as part of a company rather than sitting at home and learning by yourself. So you get that opportunity to work with others, see how it works in the industry, as well as doing your own learning. I find that working as part of a team is a great benefit rather than doing it by yourself.
Fantastic, and very best of luck with your EPA.
Thank you.
Ron, what have you seen? What would you say is the key benefit?
Well, Veronie actually hit it on the head, really. She's getting real-world experience, and what she's doing with this apprenticeship program, Richard, is she's developing a set of transferable skills, which is competency, which is what the apprenticeship standard is all about.
Superb. So real-world experience and transferable skills, I'm hearing. So thank you both, and again, thanks for your time, Grant. Last word over to you, Andrew, from an employer's perspective.
From our perspective, a huge fan of it. It puts together a really structured development program so that we can start to develop that junior talent. It means that we can bring people in easily that have got the right attitude, the right desire to learn, rather than just being focused on people that have already got some skills in the specific technologies that we're looking at. And I think that really helps to build us better teams and a better environment.
Superb. And again, that reflects, I think it was only 10% in the poll where we're looking for a specific language skill. So that kind of represents that as well. So again, thank you all very much for your time. Really interesting viewpoints, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll hand you back, Andrew, to conclude the webinar today.
Thank you, Richard. And yeah, once again, thanks ever so much. A fascinating dialogue there. So I'll just ask you to turn your cameras and audio off, panelists. Thank you very much. So this brings us towards the end of the program today. I would ask you just to note a few points, and we are going to be launching a survey, so we'd be delighted to have your feedback. This is not going away. The skills gap in digital is increasing, so this conversation will continue, and we're here to support that and answer any questions that you've got, or respond to any further bits that have come out from the conversation this afternoon. You can see on the screen our contact details. If you've got an account manager, feel free to reach out to them. They'd be delighted to help you. And then to bring you to the attention of the next webinar, data analytics, the rise of the data analyst. Data is the new gold. On the top of most C-suite members is data, either data security or using data. data analytics. And so we're going to unpack that further and be delighted to have you. Or maybe you've got a colleague in that specialist area who'd like to come. Can I encourage you to reach out and give them the benefits of understanding what's going on further in this industry. Again, we'll have some fantastic panelists for that. So that's on Thursday, the 20th of August, again at the 12:30 time slot. And onto the final slide, we just want to thank you for participating, really. It's been a two-way conversation. Thanks for those that wrote questions in, and I hope you got the answers back in the Q&A there. And I know that for those that were specific questions, you'll get individual follow-up as well. So we'd love to hear any of your feedback. We're going to launch a survey now, and may I say, have a great afternoon and speak to you soon. Thanks.